Hello folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today we are going to be playing with a mono-red painter deck list, courtesy of Hyperlink. This is one of the recent 5.0 deck lists that has done pretty well. Painter regulars, if you recognize the person who did the deck list, feel free to throw that in the comments. I forgot to check before I started recording. Essentially, the Painter Servant combo is one you're probably pretty familiar with by this point on my channel. I love Painter. I've got a couple 5.0s with it. I've been really enjoying the deck list ever since the printing of Urza Saga. The short version of the combo is that Painter Servant lets you turn every card into a card of a certain color, and we're going to pick blue in this deck list. And then Grindstone will infinitely mill out our opponent if all of the cards are always blue, because you will infinitely repeat this process. Though short of something like an Eldrazi being in your opponent's deck that shuffles their graveyard back into their library, that's just our win condition. And with everything being on blue, Pyroblast becomes a 1-mana Vindicate or hard counterspell, which is pretty strong. Now, the thing that makes the red version good historically is the fact that you have a huge degree of redundancy. Goblin Welder and Goblin Engineer as well allow you to get stuff back from your graveyard. And specifically in this version of the deck, we're playing something real big and real bad to put in from the graveyard. And that's Bolas's Citadel. So this is something that sees a decent amount of play in vintage Tinker decks. You can look at the top card of your library, and you can play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. If you cast a spell this way, you pay life equal to its mana value rather than pay its mana cost. And this last part probably isn't relevant, but you can sacrifice 10 non-land permanents to shoot a laser at your opponent for 10 life loss. As far as the sideboard goes for this deck, 6 of the cards are part of a Karn, the Great Creator Tutor package. We have 4 ley lines, and then a few assorted cards. Now, we're playing Blood Moon in an Urza Saga deck, and Blood Moon destroys Urza Saga. I really don't like this. But there have been multiple times when I've been recording a video where I said, okay, they've got Urza Saga, so I don't need to play around Blood Moon. And then my opponent cast Blood Moon, and I was like, what the heck? This is some BS. And I lost to it. So accordingly, I'm going to keep this in the deck list, even though I really do not like the negative synergy here. Urza Saga is so good. I don't want to shut off the card that gives me large constructs and tutors for one of my primary win conditions. But it works. It works, right? I do wonder if this deck is supposed to have a Mycosynth Lattice in the sideboard over one of these other cards. Just that's such a good option to have via Karn. But this deck is not treating Karn as a true win condition. It's treating Karn as something that lets us tutor for Grindstone specifically. Note we have 4 Painter Servants in the main deck, so unless our opponent exiles a Painter, we can't actually grab one with Karn. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this deck list. Let's go ahead and hop right into the league. You all know what's up. If you're a regular here, please throw me a like or a comment. Those are the easiest ways to support my content for free. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing for some sweet Magic content. I'm doing Magic content 5 days a week right now, and I hope you all enjoy. This is a really weird opening hand. If I was on the draw, I would keep this hand, draw a card, and discard Bolas' Citadel. Being on the play, this hand kind of does nothing, but might do something. And what I mean by that is I can play and activate Grindstone in hopes of milling myself into something relevant that the Goblin Welder can bring back. Do I like this hand better than the average 6-card hand? I don't think I do. I'm going to go ahead and mulligan this one. How is this hand? It's awkward. I have multiple disappearing lands here. I'm going to keep this hand. It's really hard to figure out how to play this one, though. I think I'm going to keep this and pitch the Karn. I'm just going to lead on a basic mountain here. And probably pretty aggressively Pyroblast. A cantrip if I have the opportunity to. My mana is going to be really tied up later this game. Alright, Mountain go. Opponent mulligan to 6 here, so they are down a card to start with. I have some very interesting things going on here in terms of the pace at which I choose to play this game. in terms of like whether or not I'm going to try to get Urza Saga construct tokens, whether or not I just want to try to like get a painter with this and goldfish into painter grindstone as quickly as possible. I've got absolutely real options here. My opponent is taking like a really long time with this fetch land. I wonder if they are deciding whether or not they are playing around a blood moon effect. Also straight up just like, oh no, Goblin Engineer can't get back Bolas' Citadel. It only gets things with CMC 3 or less. JK. Okay. So, yeah, sure. I don't really care if this gets dazed. Okay, my opponent does not have daze or force or anything there. Sure, sure, sure. I'm gonna have a lot to think about this turn. I'm gonna go ahead and get it going. There's a world where I'm supposed to like sandbag that for a turn in order to better play around a wasteland effect. Put a painter into the graveyard here. Yeah, so if I lead on Great Furnace first, there's a chance that that gets wastelanded first. But if my opponent wastelands me, I don't have to deal with like a Dash Ragavan this turn. And there's some worlds where the Great Furnace ends up being just as valuable, if not more valuable, than the Urza's Saga itself. Oh, I do not think you are supposed to play that fetch land prior to the Ponder, because pondering into Wasteland is so good there. That feels like a misstep from my opponent. Yep, yep, yep. Okay. Mox Opal, huh? Alright. I can go ahead and play Mox Opal. That stayed on the stack for a surprising amount of time. I believe I'm just going to go ahead and main phase activate this, because this leaves me the option to just grab a Painter's Servant by welding away one of my things. Whereas if I don't activate this now, my opponent could successfully Lightning Bolt something. Yeah, ponder away. My opponent is dead if they tap out, by the way, because I have turn Construct into Painter or turn Mox Opal into Painter, get Grindstone for free off Urza Saga, and then activate. Okay, that was no shuffle. Okay, there's a Wasteland. So that's pretty good. No immediate death for my opponent. Ragavan doesn't get to attack here. I don't think I drop the Goblin Engineer to put the Painter in play while my opponent has Lightning Bolt mana up. I think I just kind of like leave this back defensively. Okay, I think they have another castable spell, because they have just been doing some slightly strange pauses like this one. Sure, sure. So, like my land drop, I'll cast a Lotus Petal. This becomes a 4/4 and leaves Lightning Bolt range. What is... Oh, okay, my opponent straight up disconnected. Okay, so there is a connection problem here. They're not just playing super slowly. Okay, they got back quickly. My Petal resolved. I have a 4/4. I don't know if I'm supposed to start attacking yet. I really don't want the Ragavan to connect. I think I'm just going to slow roll this game. I'm not going to make any attacks or anything. I don't want to put myself into a position where I attack with the construct, I deal my opponent 4, they attack with Ragavan, I try to put in Painter, Painter gets lightning bolted, and then like the Ragavan connects. The big thing that I'm currently soft to is a Murktide Regent. But like if I attack here and then my opponent plays a Murktide Regent, I'm still woefully behind, right? So that is what it is. I would like to at some point weld Lotus Petal into a Painter. Not super safe for me to do while my opponent has red mana up, though. Because if I sacrifice an artifact, this goes down to a 3/3, and then it's back into Lightning Bolt range. I think my opponent has a Murktide Regent. They've been waiting to pay costs for a while. Okay, land drop instead. Ponder away. This will make the Murktide Regent larger if they do have one. It will also just give me an opportunity to put a Painter into play, though. Actually, at this point, I wonder if Mox Opal or Lotus Petal is a better card, now that I'm kind of thinking about it. It seems like it is Murktide. I guess I control 4 artifacts, so O's welding out the petal is fine. Swap Painter Servant, pay 1, sacrifice Lotus Petal. Everything's blue. Hello! Nice. City. Ensnaring Bridge. An ensnaring bridge with Goblin Engineer to back it up is obnoxious. Yeah. You can pitch that. I will absolutely just bring it back with Goblin Engineer. Guess I don't need to do that immediately. I'm gonna pitch a Daze. That's fine. Brainstorm away. My opponent could have some Brazen Borrower type cards that could theoretically get a bridge out of the way. But if they fetch triple Volcanic Island, they probably don't have Prismatic Ending. Got another Murktide Regent. Meaning that first one's pretty damn big. Let's engineer the bridge back. At this point, I think I'm just going to sacrifice the construct. Like, I am winning this game via the combo. I'm just going to keep all my mana sources around. Yep. Your turn. Now, the scary thing is that if my opponent can Brazen Borrower, and return this to hand, it's pretty likely that the Murktide Regents will kill me in a single turn by the time we actually get around to that happening. I'll just bolt a Dragon Rage Channeler now. Just kind of like deny that selection for my opponent. Okay, alright, they're done. Alright, so they didn't have game 1 outs to it. They will probably have game 2 outs to it. Okay, what do I want to do here in terms of sideboarding? I'll probably keep my Pithing Needle. Doing it on Wasteland's pretty good. I'll probably just cut the Bolas' Citadel for being cute. Karns are exceptionally slow here and bad against my opponent's aggressive creatures, so I think I'm just going to bring in the other Ensnaring Bridge and the Grindstone instead. And I'll probably play 2 Abrades for my opponent's early creatures. I'm not sure that playing a Tormod's Crypt is worth it as an Urza Saga tutor target. Like, it can help shrink Dragon Rage Shadowlords and keep Murktides from happening, but I think my plan for Murktides is just to blast them or get an Ensnaring Bridge up. I think I'm going to call this good. I think my Urza Sagas are more valuable than my opponent's Volcanic Islands, so I'm not going to attempt Blood Moon here. I absolutely will keep this hand. This hand has Ensnaring Bridge. It has multiple ways to get Ensnaring Bridge back. Just kind of big fan of what's going on here. The big thing that I'm going to need to dodge is Meltdown. I think if my opponent has a Meltdown at any point in this game, it is just exceptionally bad for me. Oh, wow, another Engineer. All right, yeah. This lets us play a Welder around a Daze. And we'll see if that works. Kind of expect this to resolve and then eat a Lightning Bolt. Okay. Prediction on track thus far. All right. Volcanic Island Lightning Bolt. Oh, Brainstorm. Bill is not 100% prophetic today. Unless it's a delayed prophecy and the Lightning Bolt happens on their turn. Which I think would be reasonable as well. Okay, yep. Perfect oracular knowledge. Pithing Needle. I don't mind that. I don't need to play it yet. I have none. Since I have no wastelandable lands in play. Let's Goblin Engineer. And now I have to figure out what to do. I'm honestly kind of tempted to just like grab a Great Furnace and be able to turn Lotus Petal into Great Furnace. I can also get an Ensnaring Bridge to play around this Ensnaring Bridge getting Force of Negation. I think I'm going to grab Great Furnace. It's a little weird, but feels good to me. Okay. No end of turn Lightning Bolt there. Aggressive Iteration is fine. Brainstorm enters the Exile Zone. Okay, that was not a good expressive iteration for them. Pyro Blast. I like it. I'm going to go ahead and target this Great Furnace and turn my Lotus Petal into a more persistent mana source. I think at this point, I go ahead and play the Pithing Needle. And we'll name Wasteland for this. Then I will pass with both Pyroblast and Lightning Bolt up. Although I don't know how likely I am to cast the Pyroblast in 2 days. I will probably do it on an expressive iteration, but not a smaller spell like a Ponder. You know, this is something that can stop a Murktide Regent. This is something that can back up this Ensnaring Bridge. There's a lot of value to be had here. Yes, that's fine. I have another. I have another Pyroblast as well now. Absolutely. That means I can be a little more loosey-goosey with the first Pyroblast. Alright, I will absolutely use this ability. Now, at this point, I probably find that other Ensnaring Bridge. It's a little awkward if my opponent surgicals. Maybe I play around that by putting a Painter in my graveyard. I guess that's also awkward if they surgical, but for a different reason. But I'd rather lose a Painter than the Ensnaring Bridge to a surgical. Steam Vents. Okay, so that is their Volcanic Island number 5 to make their turn 1 better. That is not a budgetary thing. What the fuck? Second Steam Vents? That's a little wild. Absolutely do not mind Lotus Petal here. I can just turn that into a Painter Servant. I do have to start playing the game of, like, what is in my opponent's hand. Yep, absolutely. Because at this point, they've had opportunities to play Murktides. They've had opportunities to play Counterspells. Seems like this is a Murktide. This is the Murktide. I'll fight. I win. Try to get a Painter in play. Sacrifice the Lotus Petal to do so. Okay, it is the Surgical Extraction. So I've succeeded in playing my Ensnaring Bridge around said Surgical Extraction, which I'm actually really happy about. Like, I can win the game without Painters pretty easily. Like, I have a Pithing Needle on Wasteland, so my constructs are still really good. And so this fizzles. Pretty happy with that, honestly. So the big thing that gets me is if my... Well, no, my opponent can't resolve a Force of Negation on that. That's just so incredibly unlikely. I don't need to attack here. Like, I have another Murktide covered. I have smaller creatures like Ragavan covered. Yep. I will go ahead and end step Lightning Bolt this and just, like, make this a non-problem. I don't really, like, need to, but not having to deal with... not having to deal with just, like, managing my hand size to keep the 2-1 from attacking is good in a lot of scenarios where I draw kind of awkwardly. A new Lightning Bolt, sure. Maybe I should be attacking with this Goblin Engineer. It feels important to just, like, not let this Ensnaring Bridge get fucked up, though. Like, I want my cards in very specific zones right now. Missed 3 damage with Goblin Engineer. Yeah. Yes, that's fine. Pyroblast is... I'm gonna hold this for right now. I've got Meltdown in my opponent's deck that I have to respect. Don't think I'm going to unnecessarily play out non-land artifacts. No shuffle. They take 1 card and then fetch it away. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Okay, a new Goblin Engineer is fantastic. Let's get this in here. Do I want to counterspell this? It's not bad. I think I'll let it go. Just, like, not in a rush here. And this is a much better target. Okay, I'll just pass the turn here. Also, just straight up decking my opponent with raw Grindstone activations is a very real thing that can occur as well. Okay, Wasteland is Pithing Needled. That's fine. I am going to Lightning Bolt that mostly to make it so that my opponent doesn't get their value. Okay. Excellent. So I'm going to play this out. Now that I don't have a Lightning Bolt up, I should probably play out 1 artifact to better play around a dashed Ragavan. Again, I can hold back a tiny amount. Okay. Yep, I'll play this out. Opponent's got 27 cards in deck. So let's activate my Urza Saga. I wonder if it is actually worth 2 life to start milling my opponent. Feels like no. It's not like a hard no. Yeah, I'll wait. Alright, so let's make a new construct. And now When I get a Goblin Welder or a Goblin Engineer, I can take my own Ensnaring Bridge out of play and kill my opponent. Grab another Grindstone. Play a land. Pass the turn. My opponent fetches at any point. I think I'm supposed to Grindstone them in response and try to take the land out of their deck. Milieu. Okay. Did not succeed in hitting their final Volcanic Island. Dragon Rage Channeler is fine. Also not sure if my opponent can realistically win 2 games in time. Yep, I mean, like, I absolutely knew this was a possibility, right? Nice. I will do this here before my opponent has a chance to untap and have hard cast Force of Negation. Yep, absolutely. And they haven't been holding back a Dash Ragavan. Goblin Welder. Absolutely. There's a good chance that this just gets lightning bolted. I get my Ensnaring Bridge back if they don't have a Bolt or Chain Lightning or equivalent. Alright, they get to dig for it. Bolts are in Graveyard and Exile. Only 2. They liked whatever they saw with Dragon Rage Channeler. Okay. Now my opponent does have multiple Wastelands that are currently usable, and they haven't destroyed my Ancient Tombs yet, so, like, that's a thing. Okay, sure. I will take 3 from this attack. I'll go to 15. Yes, Delver probably does its thing. Oh, it's a Murktide region as well. I will die quite quickly here. It's a 7/7. So I'm not dead next turn, but I'm real close to dead. I can rip the other Ensnaring Bridge, I guess. Close out this zone. Land. Okay, sure. So I am in, like, Lightning Bolt range if that flips. A Pyroblast, sure. Interesting. So they're playing their own Pyroblasts, knowing that I'm probably going to put Painter on blue. That's super cute. I did not rip it. So my opponent gets to kill me here, but they're down to 5 minutes on clock, and I'm very good at dragging the game on. I expect to win this match on time, if I don't just outright win it. So there's an argument to just bring in annoying things here, such as, like, Pyrokinesis, Thorn of Amethyst, and Trinisphere, in an attempt to just slow my opponent down and time them out. I don't think that is the correct strategy in a vacuum. It may be the correct strategy in this game. I don't think I'm going to go for a Turbo Goldfish with LED here. I think I'm going to board that card out. What do I board in? Maybe just board in a Pyrokinesis to just have one more answer to a turn 1, like, Ragavan type card. Absolutely. I'll play the Urza Saga on 1. Grindstone. I'm just going to pedal now so my pedal can't get dazed. This is just, like, really putting my opponent to the test in terms of, like, having a Meltdown caliber card. Wow, just main phase Brainstorm, huh? I guess they can hit a Bobble? Okay. Perfectly good draw on my end. See what my opponent has. Yep. Delver's fine. Ponder's fine. Like, I will Lightning Bolt this Delver at my convenience. But I am absolutely the beatdown right now. So I'll activate this. We'll get my Construct. I will float my mana. This is just going to grab a Pithing Needle or Wasteland. The rest of this turn's a little tough. I think I'm going to play an Urza Saga and be willing to take a... Now I'm going to take multiple hits from the Delver if I don't kill it this turn. Go ahead and kill this now. Force of Will, pitching a Daze, sure. And this is why I didn't want to take the line of playing Goblin Engineer and Lightning Bolt by playing the red source. You pondered. You knew you had a Delver. How did we end up in that situation where the Delver didn't flip there? Okay, sure. I'll take 1 damage here, and I'm only really afraid if my opponent plays Murktide Regent. Okay. Spirit Guide, not a great draw here. I'm just gonna continue making Urza Saga, Construct tokens, make my opponent have a Meltdown sort of card. Okay, there is currently a Meltdown on top of my opponent's deck. I will now attempt to Grindstone that away. Alright, good shit. Opponent found a bauble with that they can play for free. Absolutely. So you can have that. I'm just waiting to... Oh, okay. That's not an optimal brainstorm. Okay. Opponent has now decided they just, like, cannot win this in time and have just conceded. That's absolutely fair. GG's. I think that one was tipped in my favor anyway. Like, I've got this Goblin Engineer that is going to allow me to get an Ensnaring Bridge to slow them down, to time them out manually anyway, if my constructs don't just kill them first. Okay, round 2, I'm on the draw. I don't think this hand's super functional. I'm just going to mulligan it and try to find something safer. Absolutely. What doesn't fit here? Turn 1, Urza Saga, Pithing Needle on Wasteland. Turn 2, Ancient Tomb, go. Probably the Spirit Guide. It will be a long time before I cast this Karn, in all likelihood. Turn 1, Urza Saga. Turn 2, Ancient Tomb, activate. Turn 3, activate. Turn 4, maybe Karn, but probably not. At that point, it'll depend, like, whether or not Urza Saga got mana. My opponent's deep in the tank here. Could mean a couple of things. Could be writing me a nice message. They could be thinking about whether or not they go for it on turn 1, or just try to play more conservatively and wait and get some information. Or they could be eating some pizza. Alright, Verdant Catacombs. Are you a fair or unfair Verdant Catacombs? Probably fair? That's maybe unfair. So this is most likely elves. This is elves. Okay. I now have some big choices this game. Pithing Needle isn't default Wasteland anymore. It probably goes on Allosaurus Shepherd or Wirewood Symbiote. And it also may be better to just Lightning Bolt a Heritage Druid on turn 1 and just set my opponent back. I hope this isn't going to be another one of those rounds where my opponent basically times out. Okay. Karn can get an Ensnaring Bridge. Ensnaring Bridge isn't just, like, absolute death for elves, though. It's good, but there's usually a Reclamation Sage in the main deck that they can use to answer that, so it's not just game over. You also have to have literally, like, 0 cards in hand. Birchlore is fine. Warian is fine. And what's the follow-up here? An Elvish Reclaimer. Okay. So, I have choices regarding this Pithing Needle. Like, I have in-play targets that I can actively shut off, or I can shut off one of my opponent's primary win conditions. I don't think I'm going to lose to a 3/4 elf, given that I have an Urza Saga. Okay, so I have to think real quick whether or not, like, Karn Ensnaring Bridge is going to be, like, my secondary plan, or whether I just want to start making constructs. The bridge doesn't do anything for a few turns still, so I think I'm going to go ahead and start the Urza Saga train. I'm going to go for the Needle on Allosaurus Shepherd. I just don't want to lose to the card that my opponent can just easily Green Sun for. This will essentially mean that I'm allowing my opponent to get a Gaia's Cradle with Elvish Reclaimer, but, like, that takes a turn, and also, like, they already have 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe, like, 7 mana for their following turn anyway, if they'd, like, play a land on a creature. So I don't think mana is going to be a bottleneck with how long this game is going to go. I'd rather just shut off raw win conditions. Yep. This was one of the other things that was good to shut off, but I don't care about this too much until my opponent has either a Reclamation Sage or an Elvish Visionary. Sure. I'll probably take 2 here, and then my opponent will hold back. Okay, yeah. And then my opponent will hold back Elvish Reclaimer to get a Cradle. A little awkward that my Karn can't get a Painter here. I do not need more Ancient Tombs. Let's just play Mountain Pass. I'll get 2 Urza Saga tokens over the next 2 turns to hold the ground, and then at about that point, I can start thinking about like Karn and Snaring Bridge to shut off Crater Hoof as an easy win. Okay. Here's the fetch so that my opponent can rotate one of their lands into a Gaia's Cradle. There's some worlds where they just pick up a Dryad Arbor here instead, but doesn't seem great against the opposing Urza Saga. Okay. Here's the Elvish Reclaimer activation or the Gaia's Cradle. Okay, sure. Sure. So my opponent can attack with his Elvish Reclaimer because I'm only going to have a 2/2. That's fine. I'll go to 15 for that. And after that, I'll have the board stabilized. So there's my 2/2. All right. Dead. Float mana. 3 mana in play, 2 mana in hand, Painter's Servant, +3 to activate for Grindstone. Yeah. All right. Good deck is good. Let's fish out a Grindstone. Play Ancient Tomb. Play Painter's Servant. Everything's blue. Activate, targeting you. And there is the concession. I probably want Pyro double a braid here. I don't think I want to get cute with Blood Moon. My life total matters enough that I think I have to cut the Bolas' Citadel in this matchup. And I probably just cut some number of blasts here. I think I still want the Pithing Needle. Like blasts and spirit guides and Karns that are like not great. Actually, Karn is pretty darn bad here. Can I get enough playables in where I just cut that? Play the Grindstone. I'll lose access to the second Ensnaring Bridge if I do that, like via Wish. That's fine. I think I need to board in this other Ensnaring Bridge, though. Probably boarding a Spirit Guide out. I don't think this hand has enough persistent mana sources that I actually want to keep it. Like, I can stop some of my opponent's early stuff, and I can, like... There's a cute line where I just play, like, Double Petal, Painter, Pyroblast my opponent's first land, then Lightning Bolt their first elf the following turn, but I don't know that this actually goes anywhere long term. I'm going to go ahead and just mulligan. Hey, I don't like this hand. This hand kind of does nothing. It has a lot of artifacts, and if I hit well off the top, it's good, but... Fuck! I'm on 4 if I take another mulligan here. I think I lose if I keep that hand. I'll keep this. Put back 3. So 1 engineer goes back, 1 mountain goes back, and then it's like, do I want a welder or an engineer? They do different things. Like the welder is more easily castable. Like I'll play turn 1 Urza Saga, turn 2 Ancient Tomb. On turn 3, I can Goblin Welder, but the engineer can fish out the painter to give me the second half of my combo. I think I'll keep the engineer. Just all in on Urza's Saga being good and maybe ripping like a fucking pyrokinesis. That would be cool. Please let me take my turn. I'm getting very bored. Okay, that's pretty good. That's actually very interesting in terms of like I could try to pivot into a Goblin Engineer Painter situation. I think I need to hold the ground in the meantime. I think I'm gonna kind of stay the course a bit. Oh, don't I Force of Vigor? Oh, this could just be my opponent being slow, though. Like, other than it being Force of Vigor. Okay. Alright, there's an Allosaurus Shepherd. Good card is good. Bayou. Okay, that's it. Not a third elf to really vomit stuff onto the board. I'll take 1 this turn, going to 19. Alright, there it is. Goblin Welder. So if I play Goblin Engineer this turn, put a Painter into my graveyard. Next turn I have 4 mana. Is enough to activate Grindstone and then put in Painter and kill my opponent. I don't think they actually have Force of Vigor or Abrupt Decay. That's probably better than just making constructs. Let's do that. Here is my engineer. Okay, it's resolved. Yes. Painter. Okay, opponent has a Gaia's Cradle. That's a Collector Oof. Oh, no, okay. Good news for me, I guess. Assassin's Trophy on the land. Absolutely use that ability. I will pick up a mountain. Okay. I mean, I can choose to play around Force of Vigor or another Assassin's Trophy. Alright. Okay, so activate Grindstone, target my opponent, holding priority, activate Painter Servant, pay red, junk Grindstone, return Painter Servant, name blue, mill up my opponent. I need Force of Vigor to junk my Painter here, or they are dead. Okay, it only took me 24 minutes to play that match. Okay, this is a hand that can have a turn 3 Goldfish if I draw another land, but I think I'm just going to start by playing this one slower. In the games where I want to end up playing an Urza Saga and like making construct tokens instead and kind of grinding it out that way, I don't want to just go for the turn 3 Goldfish. Here, however, yeah, you know, I would just piss myself if my opponent played a Goblin Welder too. Like that's fair. Okay, so my opponent kept a double street Wraith opening hand, and then did not hit an initial mana source. Alright, so we are presumably playing against Doomsday here. So, how do I want to play this? My Pithing Needle's not really great. My Bolas' Citadel is not really great. How do I want to treat this Karn? Like, I probably just need these cards in the deck. Which would mean playing the Karns if I also want to cut Pithing Needle on Bolas' Citadel. Actually, I also don't want Ensnaring Bridge. Eh. Lightning Bolts are also not great here, but I think I'm keeping those. They're okay after a Doomsday. I'm going to keep, I guess, a couple of Karns as something that can just blow up a Doomsday. Or not a Doomsday, a Lotus Petal or LED or something. Format's Crypt is so bad. I think a Karn is better than just a 0 mana artifact that helps turn on Metalcraft and has no real functionality. Oh. My opponent chose not to play first. My assessment of Format's Crypt may be wrong. Just gonna throw that out there. I'm gonna mulligan this hand. There's all the synergy in the world in terms of like bouncing stuff back from my graveyard, but no real plan to win. And I think I'm gonna just go ahead and mulligan this one as well. Where are my win conditions? I know they are in this deck. There they are. Okay, keep. Put 3 cards back, huh? So 1 Mox Opal, 1 Painter goes back. And I guess I'll put back the Grindstone. Play Urza Saga and just go for the turn 3 Goldfish. The opponent will hard discard a Dredger here. Ooh, baby. Alright, land. Painter Servant. Ooh, they are a version with forces. Because of Cabal Therapy, I guess I will go ahead and just put this LED into play. Game 3 should be very easy. I now know what my opponent is doing. But game 2 here. Ah! Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. Load of mana. Pick up a Grindstone. Land. Play a Painter. And we win the match. Good stuff. Painter is so fucking good. Hey, if you made it this far in the video, you're probably enjoying my content. And if you're regularly enjoying my content, consider becoming a YouTube member or subscribing to me on Twitch. Either one's fine. And you can gain access to both my Discord server, where you can chat with me a little more casually and sometimes influence what you see on the channel. And you also gain access to some member exclusive videos. Okay, that's the plug. Back to the show. Okay, so I am on the play. I have a reasonable hand, and again, it's going to be one of those hands where I decide whether or not I go for the immediate Goldfish or whether I play a little more conservatively. With multiple Pyroblasts here, I probably just play this one more conservatively and play the Goblin Welder out early, so I don't, like, fall prey to my land disappearing too quickly. This Bolas' Citadel is just a dead card. This is just a very good 6-card hand for me. Goodbye, Goblin Welder. I knew thee well. Yes. How do I want to play this turn? I always play Grindstone, or sorry, I always play Urza Saga. I think I play more conservatively here and just kind of let this game tick up and aggressively Pyroblast most things here with my first Pyroblast since my mana is going to be tied up. Yep. See what we're working with here. Basic Island. No. No. Okay, good. Okay. Turn got hard. I can just, like, try to grind Painter I can try to grind Construct value, or I can just play Painter Servant and have Pyroblast back up and just try to kill my opponent next turn. I think I grind my value. Is that a draw step miracles? Or do you just have... That's annoying. Probably have to counter it. That doesn't give me the value that I want. I miss out on an Urza Saga activation here. I could get an LED and go for a kill here. I don't think that's good. I'm just gonna take my one construct. I am going to get a Mox Opal here. I think I'm gonna play a Pithing Needle. And I'm going to just shut off Teferi. I care about the immediate turn cycle quite a bit. They're just, like, stopping one of the things that could answer my constructs is pretty important. I think getting an LED and just being able to threaten immediate painter kill is also reasonable. Sure. My opponent to 22 makes it less likely I can just kill my opponent with constructs here. Given that, I'm gonna play this out. Need to distract my opponent from actually putting this Uro in play. I will crash in for 5. And then kind of how I'm hoping this game goes is that I distract my opponent with this Painter. My opponent removes either the Painter or the Grindstone. I draw a land. I play Karn. I Tormod's Crypt, answer this, and then, like, I keep the pressure up on this. I also thought about naming this with Pithing Needle, by the way. Alright, Horse of Plowshares is fine. This sort of thing is why I didn't just, like, go for the Turbo Painter kill earlier. Alright. Cast Lion's Eye Diamond. And now I just crash in for 5, I believe? These aren't snow lands. My opponent is missing out on a lot by not playing those. Like, now I know Ice Fang isn't in their deck. So this attack is, like, just very safe for me. Yep. They'll go to 12. Probably Grindstone myself end of turn. Make future welders and such better. Sure. I do suspect that my opponent drew a Terminus earlier based on a pause that I saw in their draw step. Okay. It's really unfortunate that I missed out on this land to just, like, turn Uro into not a thing. There's the Terminus that I think I saw earlier. Alright. What are you working with there? I'll take this opportunity to pop out my own graveyard. No shuffle. Need my Karn to resolve here to keep this Uro from getting into play. Grindstone me. Okay. I didn't want to draw those, so... Well, actually, the Engineer's not bad. No, that was a terrible draw. Oh, I wish this Bolas Citadel was not in my deck. It was just a reasonable Magic card. Sure. Oh, shit, I should have activated my Grindstone in response to that. Yep, that was a mistake on my end. I don't know how much that mistake matters, because, like, I do need to continue to grind myself in order to, like, make a Goblin Engineer or Welder actually be good. Alright, there's the Uro. So my opponent is now out of immediate danger of just, like, dying to an Urza Saga that I top deck. And my Karn gets significantly worse here. Grind me. See what we get. Karn and Lightning Bolt. Didn't want to draw those either. Double Lightning Bolt on Uro is not where I want to be. Alright. Land. Attempt to cast Karn. Shit. Okay, so I was going to have activate Karn, hold priority, crack LED, get ensnaring bridge, and then stop this Uro from attacking. I no longer have that line available to me. That is very bad. Oh, I am so surprised that didn't just immediately start fate sailing me. Because a painter hitting play is death for my opponent, right? I also think they're supposed to Uro attack prior to Jace activating. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I was just talking about, right? Play Painter Servant. Yep, okay. Wonder if I was supposed to Lightning Bolt Jace as the bait there. I was probably supposed to Lightning Bolt Jace as the bait there. I think I fucked that up. I think I punted this game by doing that. I get a few turns, but I absolutely should have fucking Lightning Bolted that Jace first. I did not think about that. Just saw my top deck and played it. Absolute punt. Hope that doesn't cost me a trophy. Alright, I'm down to 9. Now, opponent has 5 cards. Like, opponent has plenty of interaction. They can, like, Prismatic Ending or Grindstone out of play or something. Yeah. I mean, gives me a live top deck for next turn. So I can Painter and activate next turn. Go to 3 here. I think at this point I don't need to Grindstone myself anymore. Just eat that damage. Karn's a fine draw. Painter's a fine draw. Not much else besides that is. Ancient Tomb will not do it here. I will concede. Yeah, I punted this game. I will own up to that. I don't really have anything for sideboarding here. Karns are not great. Junk this Bolas' Citadel like I've done every round. Bring in the Grindstone. I don't really like these Spirit Guides. I'm going to cut them. I'm going to bring the Trinisphere and the Thorn of Amethyst into the main. This means the Karns suck. But the Karns suck anyway, so I'm just going to kind of lean on the fact that if Karn is going to do something good, it is going to be on the back of Liquid Metal Coating. This is one of the few Karn hands, so to speak. I have to decide if I want to play Goblin Engineer on turn 1. I don't think I do. I think I just want to go Ancient Tomb pass and then use Ancient Tomb to fuel a Karn. See what my opponent has to say about that. Okay. Let's attempt. There's Karn. There's Force of Will. Pitching Counterspell. I think I am supposed to play out these artifacts here because my opponent has Counterbalance in their deck. Okay, sure. Alright, there's a Pyroblast. I will be willing to use a Lotus Petal to do that if I have to. Alright, let's attempt Engineer. I will not Pyroblast counter here, like, to protect this. Yes. Am I just going to pick up half the combo? I think I'm just going to pick up half the combo. The big thing to worry about here is a Surgical Extraction, though, which does not get countered by Pyroblast. Okay, Swords of Plowshares is fine. It's good, but it's happening. I'm out of gas here. But opponent didn't have a big impactful turn 3 play, thankfully. So I'll just make my land drop past the turn. And we might stare at each other for a little while. Yep, okay. We shall continue the staring game. I get it. Okay, you get your land drop. We continue the staring game. We don't need to play that yet. I will just make my land drop, though. Oh, movement. What do you have? I Pyroblasted. I Pyroblasted is the answer here. They've almost certainly waited until they had, like, backup for something. Oh. Sure, absolutely, you can ponder. Not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. That was no shuffle, sure. Mountain. Great start to any day. Alright, it didn't set up an entreat or anything randomly, so that's good. Alright, I don't want to draw that card unless my opponent has a Jace. Your predict happens. Milling the Uro. Absolutely. I probably have to, like, begrudgingly Pyroblast that to keep that from hitting play when it happens. Green mana is a bottleneck, though, since my opponent fetched double Tundra. Why did my opponent fetch double tundra? I don't know, maybe they just intended on getting... Okay, doesn't matter. Yeah, it has 10, then 11 cards in graveyard. Okay, they're just taking their time here. That was a shuffle. Yeah, so they could have put the Uro into play this turn, and they're just not. I mean, I obviously cast this. I think I'm willing to take 2 damage here to leave these Great Furnaces untapped. Counterspell. I have to fight back here. I don't know that I win this fight, but I think I have to try. Ooh, another counterspell. Alright. I'm going to sit here for just a second. I'm going to click on a land, unclick on it, and, like, think as to whether or not I'm going to counter this, and then I'm not. I really wanted that Karn to resolve so that I could then Ormad's Crypt that Uro out of the way. My opponent has intentionally not fetched green mana. Wondering if they're going to, like, back to basics or something. Do I fire this lightning bolt off at their skull? I don't think so. It's more important to point it at a Jace later. I am not going to play a card here. I'm on the losing end of this equation, and I kind of need to wiggle in order to, like, get a combo kill or something. Uro, maybe a different Uro is going to come down at some point and just savage me. I'm really just so confused about how my opponent has fetched this game. I guess the last couple fetch lines were Flooded Strands. Maybe my opponent has 1 drop or something. They just, like, couldn't fetch it. Okay. Go ahead. It seems like you really need to have... Okay. I was about to say, it seems like you need to have 2 tropical islands in that deck, but I don't know, like, how many copies of, like, Back to Basics or equivalent my opponent is playing to support those things. Alright, Uro occurs. Dead in 3 turns to it. Dead in 2 turns if my opponent can get a single more point of power. That's pretty good. Those are beefy constructs, and this doesn't get countered. I am going to go ahead and play the Painter's Servant on an empty board here. Or the Plowshares on top. That's fine. Everything's blue. While I know Swords to Plowshares is on top, I'm going to cast and resolve this Mox Opal to increase the size of the construct tokens in the future. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Probably 7 sevens. Bigger than Uro is kind of the primary point. Automatic ending is fine. I take 6. I go to 7. My Ancient Tombs are probably, in practice, shut off at this point. That's not literally true, right? Like, I have 7 health, but I probably don't get to tap those anymore, because, like, 1 Uro hit is kind of a big deal. Do I use Lightning Bolt as a bait spell to resolve Pithing Needle on Jace? I think I do. Just see if there is a 1-drop on top here. Opponent did not use the ability. Fair. We'll now play a Pithing Needle. There was a Brainstorm on top. Okay. Opponent realized what was up. I respect it. Like, when their life total is not super relevant, I totally get what they just did there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, I'll do this. I think I just eat an immediate Swords to Plowshares. See if I'm wrong, though. Okay. Yep, there's the white mana. Okay. The good news here, though, is that, like, I'm not just immediately dead to this Uro, right? Like, I get to make another construct token and then fish a Grindstone out of my deck. Alright, opponent would have played around Lightning Bolt anyway, since I saw Lightning Bolt in a previous game. A Goblin Welder. That's not bad. So, I activate this. I get my 7/7. I do not have a Pithing Needle. My Pithing Needle's in the graveyard, so that means I get a Grindstone. I will cast a Goblin Welder and see if it resolves. I know my opponent has a Brainstorm, so the answer here is probably no. Oh, they did not use their Brainstorm. They just did it raw. This construct just gets bounced by Jace. Yep. But then I do have Goblin Welder. Oh, I don't have Goblin Welder. Sure. So I'm going to eat 6 damage here and go to 2. My top deck has to be live in some capacity or I am dead. Alright, I'm at 2. I am going to grindstone my opponent. Because I do have a backdoor mill win as something that I care about. Ah, took a Terminus out of their deck. Mountain. Mountain will not do it. We're going to activate a Grindstone just real quick and just see if my opponent randomly dies from 18 cards. You know, like Stranger Things. No, they did not die from 18 cards. All right. Unseed. All right. So I punted game 1, but game 2 I lost pretty stunning fashion here. I would have gotten a game 3 to attempt it, but c'est la vie. So we're 3-1 now. All right. Round 5. What do I think of this? This is fine. It's really bad. It's really bad if this Urza Saga gets wastelanded. But otherwise, this is a hand that can make a few Urza Saga construct tokens, and I have like a Simian Spirit Guide in a pinch that I can use to Red Elemental Blast. Okay, sick. Oh, Great Furnace is a fantastic draw here, because that just like turns on Mox Opal. And means that I do not have to immediately use the Lotus Petal or the Spirit Guide in order to get my construct token. All right. I am so tempted to blast this Brainstorm. I have to use the Spirit Guide to activate Urza's Saga if I want to keep my the Petal around afterwards. I think I'm good with that. Yeah, get out of here. I'm not good with this. I'll pay for days. I have a Spirit Guide for activating my Urza Saga. Absolutely. Yeah, you can redrop that Volcanic Island and ponder. Like, I am good with my opponent being a land drop behind. This is the first game that the Spirit Guide has felt like very actively good. And we'll go to end step and activate this. Goblin Welder as the draw. That's totally fine with me. So I'll get my other construct here. I grab a Grindstone. Let's threaten the combo. If I had a Retrofit or Foundry in the deck, I would grab that there. 100% fine with my opponent dazing this Goblin Welder, by the way. I am so far ahead on tempo. Yeah, fine with the Force of Will happening there. I will bash in for 5. Opponent goes to 13. They're probably not dead next turn or anything, but they're going to be close. Yeah, the other thing I was considering was Pithing Needle for Wasteland, but I think I'm far enough ahead that I don't have to do that. Dragon Rage Channeler. No problem. I'm just going to bash in for 8 here. And we just need to essentially just dodge Murktide Regent this turn. I will probably grindstone myself since I don't have... Yeah, that's fine. Anyway, since I don't have a good target in my graveyard currently for a welder. Okay, there's the concession. Would you have fought over the Brainstorm? Let me know in the comments. Round 5. Give me a timestamp to remind me, because it's going to be 3 weeks before this video hits you all. Okay, what do I want here? I don't want to play the Bolas' Citadel. I probably don't want to play the Karns. That means Grindstone comes in. That means Ensnaring Bridge comes in. That means 2 Abrades come in. And then it's just a question of, like, do I want to play the Pyrokinesis over, like, the LED or something? I think I'm good with it. And that probably does it. Is an okay hand. I think I'll keep it. I am unsure whether or not I will lead on Urza Saga on turn 1 or just play Goblin Welder on 1. I will play Goblin Welder on 1 because it blocks Ragavan. Unless... How do I play this turn? I think I play Mountain. I think I go Mountain, Lotus Petal, Bolt. And I think my opponent's F6'd, so I am just going to play a Goblin Welder here. And, okay, they're on the Steam Vents build. Fine. And an Unholy Heat. No problem. So Wasteland and Murktide are the things that I'm looking to dodge here. Yeah. Absolutely. And because I have this Spirit Guide in hand, I'm okay just jamming this here. My opponent also F6 through their previous turn, so that's just like another thing that makes me feel comfortable doing that. Unholy Heat also doesn't immediately answer a Painter Servant as of right now. We'll have 3 card types in graveyard after this Ponder resolves. Okay, there's the Wasteland that I was hoping to dodge, unfortunately. What? Why am I being allowed to activate this Urza Saga? This is absolutely batshit insane to me. I'm not making an attack in with a Painter into your Dragon Rage Channeler that's going to grow if... I don't understand. Afraid, target the Painter. This is an awfully nice blue card you have there. So I'll let this Dragon Rage Channeler trigger resolve. Put it on top. Counter target spell if it's blue. And then I'll use a Spirit Guide to activate Urza Saga. Yep. Spirit Guide just doing some fucking work here. Alright, there it is. What's your follow-up? Yes, I will take my 3. Arctide. Ugh. Alright. A lot of pressure. Alright. Enjoy your 1-turn window to kill me. Or answer one of my permanents. You have 1 card in hand. That is the concession, and we end up with a 4-1 with Painter. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Red Painter felt fine. I don't think I like this 75 of it. I boarded out the Bolas' Citadel in every round. I don't think having access to that is significantly better than having access to, like, the red cycling creature. Painter players help me out. Red cycling creature. I think it has, like, menace, and it does something that lets you, like, draw some cards or something. I don't think Bolas' Citadel is significantly better than that. Bolas' Citadel is not castable at any point in the game unless you have, like, 3 of these things or get into a really weird LED scenario. I don't want that card in my deck. I think this is a dead card. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy with the game 1 deck. Karn feels medium minus to me. I would rather just have another Grindstone in the main deck and have a more functional sideboard, I think, than play this stuff. I feel like Painter has inevitability anyway, even without Karn, and especially without a Mycosynth Lattice to turn the Karn into a standalone win condition. I just felt like I boarded this card out, and then, like, I didn't board in a lot of these cards or use a lot of these cards, right? So, I also don't really like Blood Moon shutting off my Urza Saga. Like, as you saw, Urza Saga was just insane this league. Like, this was maybe a trophy if I didn't punt match 1 of, what was that, round 4 that I lost. Very happy with the Painter overall, though. Deck is great. I highly encourage you to try out Painter if you've never tried it out. The shell is very powerful, and will continue to remain powerful and good and probably underappreciated, unless Urza Saga ends up leaving the format. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please click the like button or leave me a comment on your way out. Those are the easiest ways to support me for free. If you're really enjoying my content and you want to support me financially, consider becoming a YouTube member or perhaps doing a donation deck list to get one of your decks on the channel. Have a great rest of the day, folks. See ya!